Welcome back, everybody, here to Fantasy Fest 2024, right here on Fantasy Pros MLB. Make sure you subscribe to the channel because Leading Off Live is going to be with us in just a few short days. Unbelievable. Speaking of unbelievable, one of the best there is in terms of prospect evaluation. He's the guy that writes all the prospects up for the Black Book. He is the man that you see at FTN Fantasy and at Rotoballer. He is Eric Cross, and he is exhausted. Look at him. All he's doing is watching tape for you so he can evaluate all these prospects. You're up there in Maine. Cross, you look like the way New England weather feels right now. Are you doing okay?
Yeah, no, I'm doing good. It's starting to get a little warmer up here. It starts to almost feel like spring. Baseball's on the way, and happy to talk with two of my favorite people in the industry right here with
God, Joe, nothing more endearing than being like, "Are you okay? You look
right.
horrible."
You look
it's like
exhausted.
the most offensive thing ever. Like, "Hey there,
Not
big guy."
offensive.
That's
He
a big
looks
guy thing you
tired
just did.
today.
He looks fine. He looks beautiful. You look rested, Eric.
Thank you, Welsh.
You need a nap, is what you need, Eric Cross, because I've been
I wouldn't say
following
no to
you,
that.
and everybody should be following him, by the way, at Eric Cross 04, because it's one of the best accounts if you're playing fantasy baseball or if you just love baseball, because you're constantly putting footage up there, guys. You're constantly putting highlights up there. It's my favorite thing. Every morning I wake up and say, "What did Eric Cross post for me today?" And that's why he's tired, because he's working, not like me and Welsh.
You need my Arizona sun.
escape.
I'm looking. I didn't realize how like tan I'm kind of looking.
Yeah, I went out
look
for a
at
walk
you.
today. It's 70 degrees in New Jersey, and you know me, I tan in 2 seconds, so you can't go by me. Maybe he'll get an hour or two of sun in August up there in Maine. Maybe.
Yeah, you'll get it at the Arizona First Pitch Conference when I see you in 6 months or whatever. That's when the sun comes in, Eric.
Absolutely. Can't
Well,
wait.
Eric Cross, we're going to get to some of our favorite prospects on the list. We're going to make an impact in 2024. And for those of you out there, if you've got questions about prospects, this is the time, choosing between two guys, whatever it might be. You give us prospects. We're going to give you answers here. Drop your comments and your questions. We'll filter them in. We've also got a poll coming up, too, of the biggest prospect in 2024. Who's it going to be? Is it going to be Jackson Churio, Wyatt Langford, Jackson Holiday, Evan Carter? Or can we add another one? Someone else named Jackson? I don't know. I feel like everyone's named Jackson nowadays. So we'll see. Also, I want to thank the sponsor of today's show. And that sponsor, of course, is Underdog Fantasy. The Welsh and I just had a great time doing a draft over there. You should go do one too. In fact, do the Dinger contest, because MLB draft season is here and it's the best place to play fantasy baseball. It's Underdog. That's the spot. We've got our 20-round draft we did in that best ball format. You can do one-on-ones, 3 versus 3, 12 people leagues. You can do 30-second clocks, 8-hour slow drafts. You name it, they've got it. I love the Dinger contest. $750K is up for grabs and prizes, and first place gets a cool $100,000. And it's only $10 to draft in the tournament, and it closes on opening day, March 28th. So get in there. What are you waiting for? Sign up with Underdog. Use that promo code FPMLB. Again, that's FPMLB to get your first deposit match up to $100. That's 10 free Dinger drafts right there just for signing up with FPMLB. So Underdog is the spot. Download the app or go to underdogfantasy.com and get drafting for the upcoming MLB season. Let's start with the guy at the top of the list here. Eric Cross. Jackson Churio is the guy that everybody is very excited about. He got the big contract. He got paid in this offseason. I know you have him as your number 4 guy currently on your list, but this is the player that people are really saying, all right, Milwaukee is, trying to compete again in the Central, which seems very up for grabs. What are your expectations for Churio at just 20 years old in 2024?
Yeah, Jackson Churio has been a fast riser, ever since he got into the Brewers organization. Made it up to Double-A at 18 and back in 2022, and just kept rolling last year. 22 home runs, 24 steals, and really took off, in really the last third of the season or so once they got rid of the tacky ball in the Southern League. He's not quite this, pure hitter that, Holiday is or Langford is or maybe even Evan Carter, but the power speed blend. And this is a plus or better power, plus or better speed guy. One of the few guys that has a legit shot at going 30-30 at some point during his career. Now, obviously, can't expect that this year, but could he go 20-20 this year or a little bit more than that? Absolutely. Got to wonder if the average is a little bit lower than it will be for like Langford and Holiday, because he's a little more aggressive than those guys, and maybe that gets exposed by Major League pitching. But even if he hits 250, if he can go 20 plus right away, I think he's going to be a very exciting player and among many exciting players this year.
So 250, 2020. That sounds like a really good season out of the gate. You
Yeah.
think that's well within his range?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I wouldn't bet money on it, as obviously prospects, even the top guys we've seen, they've struggled, but he's definitely has that upside for sure. Like he's shown that, he's shown the power, he's shown the speed and athleticism, and usually he starts a little slower at every level. So maybe April, maybe he's not coming out on fire, but this is a guy that's always made the adjustments eventually. After he settles in at a level, and then kind of takes off from there. So yeah, I think it's definitely possible.
All right, from one Jackson to another, from Maturio to Holiday. I'm a big fan, Jackson Holiday, but maybe no bigger fan than the Welsh. The guy's got incredible hit tool. He does have some pop there. I think he's still more of a doubles hitter currently. I do think he'll grow into that power. Welsh, you're very bullish on Jackson Holiday. Let's talk about it because we expect him to be also with the big club on opening day. So what does that mean? Not just for his rookie of the year chances, but also for his fantasy value. Do you think he's being drafted appropriately or too high or too low?
I think he's being drafted too low.
Agreed.
He's actually my favorite rookie because of the cost. Jackson Chourio, he has kind of stabilized top 100. We're going to talk about Wyatt Langford, top 100, Evan Carter, top 100. The only guy that hasn't moved that in theory has a spot right now is Jackson Holiday. Caminero was going in the 200s, but he's already been optioned. So it is a funny thing I want to point out. Someone in the chat, I'm going to say their name, I might mess up. They said, when targeting rookies or breakouts, how much do you see the name now? How much do you target?
I saw the name before. It's Nuckin Futz.
Yeah. Well, I had a whole story I talked about. You remember the restaurant Fuddruckers?
You definitely should not try to say this name.
Yeah.
So anybody should avoid it. It should be you.
So I'm trying to avoid it. And I just did it. They said, how much do you target like prospects and equating risk? So, and I'm trying to lead this into my holiday thing. One interesting thing about Jackson Chourio, that line that you gave, that line sounds like that 250 2020 sounds like Lane Thomas. That sounds like Lane. That's Lane Thomas's number at a prospect, and Churio's going 2 or 3 rounds higher. If that's where you think he stabilizes, I think Chourio does have a little bit more like inherent risk. What makes Wyatt Langford more interesting than him? I'm drafting Langford over Chourio. It's that better plate discipline. Going to probably have more contact. Stolen bases maybe a little bit less. So let's circle this all back around. Jackson Holiday is my number 1 prospect over Wyatt Langford. I know things are thrown at me. But what I love about Jackson Holiday is that patient approach, that contact-based approach. The guy walked over 100 times in the minor leagues last year. He moved 4 levels. Every single full season slate of minor league levels, he moved last year. I think that you could see a Bobby Witt-like season from Jackson Holiday where he can steal 30 plus, he can go 15 to 20. Realistically, I'm viewing Jackson Holiday as like a 15 homer, 30 plus stolen base guy who is not going to strike out a bunch. He's going to qualify at second and short because most places have him at short and he's probably going to be playing second. And they already said he's going to move between. And his contact ability could put him at the top of the lineup very early on in the season. I like him because I think the floor is higher than anybody except maybe Wyatt Langford. Those two, the floor is uniquely special. So I am all in on Jackson Holiday. I want him on the teams. I took him in the dinger. I 100% took him there, not just placating here. But I think the floor is good enough for redraft that it's a prospect I want to dive into. Because even though I'm a prospect guy, I don't do a ton of prospects in redraft because, like I said, we build up the expectation. And unless the cost makes a lot of sense, usually they're performing at like, you might be like a Lane Thomas level. I went nuts about Corbin Carroll last year because I thought the market was completely wrong. And that was one I got right. I might be wrong about some prospects this year. There's a handful of good ones. Holiday is going to break camp with this team. He's going to be in the middle infield. And I think he might have some of the best patience, plate presence among all these prospects. And that's what I think makes him unique. And that's why I think he'll be so impactful.
Where do you have him ranked at second base? I have him as the 11th guy there. Do you know offhand where you might have him?
I'll have
because I'm looking at while you look for that. Back to you, Eric, on this one because you have Jackson Holiday as your 6th overall guy right now. Why is he lower, or should I say, so much further down the trough? I know it's only 6,
Eric.
but still, that seems like a pretty big gap from where Welsh might have him.
I think all those guys at the top are really close. These are all like my top 5 overall prospects for the most part. I just question how much, power we get from Holiday initially. I mean, he hits the ball hard. That's not the question. But it's more like, gap to gap. He did hit a home run
Right.
the other day, which was nice to see. So I'm just wondering, does he get up to 15, plus home runs? He
I don't
absolutely
think he
could.
does. I think
He,
15 is his
yeah.
max this year, to be honest.
I mean, he absolutely could. I mean, he's again, quality of contact is there. I'm just wondering if he just hits a lot of doubles this year and maybe
But what
goes
if he
to
steals 35 bases? And what if he scores
could.
90 runs? And so that's like where and I'm not trying to be defensive about it because I
That
don't
has
care.
to be, but Welsh, that has to be also about lineup placement of where he's hitting in the order too.
Of
So
any of these rookies, Wyatt Langford probably has the most perceivable best spot in a lineup where he could go. They've been hitting him like 3 or 4. Jackson Holiday would be number 2. I think Jackson Holiday legit could be the number 2 hitter for this team, maybe even lead off.
right now he's slated as the 8th guy. That's what I'm looking at right now. So he would have to make that jump to get anywhere close to that run total, which is an interesting one. This is one from our friend Go Cards, one of our favorites over there on our Discord and Fantasy Pros. I see you, Go Cards. If Holiday and Langford make their team, should they be called up from minors lists in fantasy to start the season? Eric, do you think that if they're in, you automatically want to throw them right in there?
100%, because both
Yeah.
these guys have a chance to be top 100 players right off the bat. And yeah, it's always risky with any prospect, no matter how good they are. But yeah, these are guys that you take that risk, you throw them in your lineup and see what happens.
I know Welsh's answer. So, Welsh, where was your Jackson Holiday ranking out of your second baseman?
Yeah, I was looking over on Pros where you can check out my ranks. I have him at 12. So I have him as a starting second baseman in 12-team fantasy.
So I have him one spot higher than you. That's
Well, positionally, do you have him higher than me on the overall? Show
well,
me
I
yours.
don't
I'll
know.
show you
That's
mine.
I don't. Well, we'll see how the show goes. All right, let's go back to the Rangers prospects here because 2 of the top guys happen to be on the same team. It's Wyatt Langford and Evan Carter of the Texas Rangers. So right now, Eric Cross, you've got Wyatt at number 1 overall on your new list and Evan Carter at number 2. I am a Langford guy. I'm less of a Carter guy, but I want to hear you break them down. I know you said everybody's really close at the top, but I want to split some hairs. So let's do it. Wyatt Langford, Evan Carter. Why is Wyatt ahead of Evan for you?
Yeah, and just to add a note, like these rankings are for 2024, not like my long-term prospect rankings. But yeah, Langford's my number 1 in any prospect list right now. I think he has the best blend of ceiling and floor. Welsh already mentioned how high the floor is with Langford. I mean, he has that special blend of contact, power, speed, and approach. He dominated his last year at Florida and continued that in the minor leagues. A WRC plus of 202 in the minor leagues last year, which is an insane number. And this is a guy that has 30 homer pop in the bat, can steal 20 plus bags, and could hit for a high average with a great OBP as well. Obviously, I'm not banking on all that coming this year, but just given that blend of tools, I think he has the most, fantasy ready skill set right now of any of the elite prospects that are coming up this year. I mean, I think he's a better pure hitter than Churio with more power, less speed, but I think he's at more power than, Jackson Holiday, and a pretty good bat to boot. Yeah, Holiday has the edge in the hit tool department, but I think when you put everything together, put all the ingredients in the pie, so to speak, I think that's why I have Langford as my top guy this year.
All right, I want to hear from everybody out there. You like Wyatt, you like Evan Carter. Which one do you prefer? So go ahead, everybody. You can drop your opinions in there. We'll get to some of the results of that poll too. Make sure you go vote on that for our favorite prospect of 2024. It's Churio, Langford, Holiday, and Carter. All right, back to you here, Welsh. Same question. Wyatt Langford, Evan Carter. What's the difference between them in your opinion? And in your opinion, which one do you like more for 2024?
Well, I mean, power is definitely a big question. Much smaller frame from Evan Carter, though he absolutely destroyed Logan Gilbert a couple days ago in spring. Like Evan Carter is a sneaky guy. Like I think he's always going to be a sneak up on you type of player. And that's why there's a lot of those comps, not just physically, but from a actual game standpoint to like Kyle Tucker. You get that out there like, oh, it could be 20-20, 30-30. That can continue to go on. Someone asked in the chat, I think it was JJ, said that I'd heard that Evan Carter had issues against left-handed pitchers. And was that true? A lot of it came from his ability to put the ball in the air, extra base style versus lefties. I think there was I think it was Chris Blessing that had put this out there. There's like one extra base hit against lefties all last year that happened. But, the way he makes contact, he was hitting 3 in the World Series. So he is uniquely interesting. I just don't personally know if he is a guy that can hit more than will hit more than 20 homers. Can he? Yes. Will he? I don't know. I also don't know if he's going to be an aggressive base stealer. but I like him. I think there's a good floor, but I think Wyatt Langford's ceiling is so much higher. I think Langford could hit 30 homers. I think he could steal 20 bases. I think he is probably a more patient hitter. I think he is better suited to actually be like a 4. I think you could put Carter at 3 and you could have Langford at 4. Hell, if this team didn't have Corey Seager, putting Carter at 2, like where Seager usually hits, and Langford at 3 would make a lot of sense. I've been saying this all off season long. Even though Carter has been the guy ranked higher for many, many moons, that has now changed. I'm a Wyatt Langford guy for this season, and it looks like we are now positioned into a spot where they're both going to break camp. I think from a fantasy perspective, Langford will be more impactful, but I'm also open to the opportunity that maybe the batting average struggles a little bit more, and Carter might be a guy that scores more runs, hits a better batting average, but the other two categories go to Langford.
Looking right now, projected lineups too for opening day, because we don't know Corey Seager's health. Marcus Semien, Evan Carter, Wyatt Langford. That's your first 3 with Garcia hitting cleanup. So good spot for these young kids to get off to a good start. Hopefully they will. Let's see what the results of the poll are. Which prospect will have the biggest 2024 impact? Wyatt Langford is the winner at 35%. Jackson Churio at number 2 at 25. Jackson Holiday tied actually for second with 25. Evan Carter just 12. Sorry, Evan. You had a good effort there. We still like you. Don't worry about it. Everything's going to be fine. I want to talk about another prospect too that did get sent down earlier this week that I'm very high on, and it's Junior Caminero. Now, look, I understand that Caminero is going to get some time in AAA. 50 to 100 at-bats is my guess here. But if he crushes AAA, Eric, I feel like this is not going to take very long for him to get back with the Tampa Bay Rays. Give me your prospect profile for your expectations of games played and productivity for Junior Caminero this season.
Yeah, I definitely agree that I don't think it's going to be a long stint in AAA. I mean, the bat is ready. He showed that, the power is, maybe the best power in the minor leagues, or at least in that discussion. We're talking, potential 35 homer, middle of the order, just absolute impact bat. And he's a little different than these other guys we've already talked about, because speed's not a big element of his game, probably never will be. He's a guy that's probably going to be always like 3, 4, 5 steals, something like that. So that bat will have to carry him, but it absolutely could. And he's at one of the best blends of, contact and power in the minor leagues. And I hate to make comps, but if everything clicks with this guy, like down the road, I mean, he could be a guy that's getting into like that second tier of third baseman, into the Rafael Devers range. Like that's the upside we're talking about here. So yeah, I can't imagine that, they can move Paredes over from third to second if Lowe, gets injured again. He can play DH, he can play shortstop. So yeah, I don't think it's going to be that long. I think you're going to see, even if he gets 500 plate appearances this year, I think you could see 20 home runs and a solid average to go along with it.
Love this player so much. Welsh, I want to get your take on him too, because I think now that he got sent down, you're going to see a drop in ADP, and I think this is the perfect storm to go by. Before we get to Welsh's take, though, I want to remind everybody, make sure you're maximizing your fantasy baseball success by syncing your leagues to FantasyPros. Again, we're the best tools on the planet when it comes to drafting, for managing your in-season rosters. But right now, again, for free, you can sync your league. So it doesn't cost you anything to do it. If you've never done it before, FantasyPros, I urge you, check it out. It's going to blow your mind. So sync your leagues today for free, and you can run all the mock drafts on Draft Wizard. You can make cheat sheets. You can make hybrid cheat sheets between me, Welsh, or experts that you think are smarter. Certainly not better looking than us, but maybe smarter. It's the perfect way to prepare for all your drafts. So don't leave your fantasy success to chance. Sync your leagues for free today at fantasypros.com/draftwizard. Dominate your drafts like a pro. And of course, use the tools of Fantasy Pros. They are free. They are here for you. I got a friend of mine who hasn't played fantasy baseball in 5 years, my buddy Kurt. He came into it last year. He said, I'm going to use Fantasy Pros. He did. He said, I crushed the draft. He won the league. And now he's back in my home league, and he's using all the Fantasy Pros tools. And he just texted me the other day. He said, this is amazing. I can't believe how good this stuff is. And we want you to use it. It's free. Junior Caminero is not free, but, well, she's getting cheaper. So I want to talk to you about Caminero. This is an opportunity for people now to take advantage of what I think is an ADP that's going to fall off the map, and it should not in redraft leagues, because this guy I still think is going to play more than 100 games for the Rays this year. Your thoughts on Caminero?
Yeah, I agree. In some way, we're going to actually talk about building like the perfect bench a little bit later. I think Junior Caminero is a prime player to build a bench around. Get him on your bench. What do you want out of your bench? I would say I want upside, and I want players that might be easily movable if I decide to stream. And that's what Junior Caminero is, because I don't think he's going to be down there for long. I kind of see this is like a lazy-ish comp, but Caminero's got like a Manny Machado-ness to him. You know, the walks might be in question. It's big power. He doesn't steal a bunch, but he is a massively impactful bat at the middle of the lineup. And I think it'll only be so long that the Rays can keep him out, whatever it is, if it truly is roster manipulation. Yeah, I think he's a prime post 200 player. Give me upside unless I'm desperately trying to, if I'm in like a deep league, or, I'm devoid of some depth at some spot, like, sure, I guess you could go otherwise, but this would be a prime player I would be targeting on my bench, because he is going to be I'll tell you right now, he will be the guy that everyone is freaking out about blowing their fab on if he were to get the call up. He's the player that you blow the fab on. So if you can afford it to get him on the back half of your roster, do that so you're not in that fray.
Before we get to the bowl predictions, I have one question for you, Eric, because I'm dying to know, because you've still got him as your number 5 guy. Noelvi Marte, 80-game suspension. This is another guy that's going to drop significantly in ADP. Welsh obviously just gave his very astute thoughts on the matter. That's why I'm asking Eric, because he's the grown-up in the room, not like you, Welsh. So, Cross, talk to me about Noelvi Marte now, who is, again, going to miss half the season, but is he going to come back and play right away for the Reds, in your opinion, after the suspension? I know it's tough to look into the crystal ball. There's a lot of guys. It's a jam-packed spot. You never know what injuries might change the dynamic of that question too. But do you believe in Marte regardless? And are you taking a discount, maybe even in dynasty leagues too, where you might be able to buy him on the cheap?
Yeah, I'm definitely taking the discount in dynasty leagues, and yeah, he was the number 5 guy. I thought he could have a year close to Langford and Holiday and Churio right there with those guys, but unfortunately he'll miss the first half of the year. So went from being a top 5 guy to I don't even know where I'd rank him now. But if you have a deep benches, I'm not opposed to kind of stashing him. Like, obviously, if you have more shallow benches, doesn't make sense to do so. But if you got a few extra bench spots where you can, like, all right, throw him there, or like even Jason Dominguez, another good example of that, because what Welsh was saying about Caminero is probably going to be the same thing, 2.5, 3 months later with Noelvi Martes, given, the upside he has in that ballpark as well. Maybe, I think it also depends on who's healthy at that time, but I could see like a handful of games and, double AAA, just, kind of get him back in and ready. But I think once he is ripped back, he'll probably be up starting, pretty soon after that. And I still think he could be a highly impactful bat for the second half of the season.
Matt Flood has a great question here. Bigger impact this year, Colt Keith or Parker Meadows, which brings us perfectly to your bold prediction. So you can answer the question and then take away your Parker Meadows prediction here, Eric. The floor is yours.
Yeah, so my bold prediction is that Parker Meadows goes 20-20 this year. I mean, more realistic would probably be like 15-15, but
Well, that's not fun.
No, that's not fun. Yeah, let's be bold. So, yeah, go bold. And I think it's also, as there is a possibility that comes true. He's always had a solid power speed blend. I think he had like 22 home runs and 24 steals combined between the majors and AAA last year in like 120 something games. So he has that power speed, and he's probably going to lead off a good amount for Detroit with, Kerry Carpenter, Torque, Riley Green behind him. Pretty solid trio there. So maybe he gets 80 plus runs to go along with it. Always, been a guy who gets on base at a decent clip. So he's been like my favorite target. I think I have the most shares of him out of any player, not just rookies, any player, because ADP was like 290, which was an absolute steal. But with Colt Keith, I think Keith's one of the best pure hitters in the minor leagues. Won't steal a lot of bags, but he can hit you a good average and maybe 20 plus home runs right away. Now that he's up, and he'll be a guy that has second and third eligibility for the most part, which is very valuable there as well. So I like both those guys a lot.
Eric, I made a statement last week on Sports Grid TV, and I said it again here on FP channel, that this has the possibility to be one of the great rookie classes of the last generation. I was talking about that 86 rookie class that had Will Clark and Canseco and Bo Jackson and Barry Bonds and Bonilla and all those guys. The tops traded 1986, my all-time favorite of the baseball card bunch there. But this starts to feel a little bit like when you start to talk about all these names, and we talked about guys at the top, and some of these guys, as you mentioned, we're going to ADPs closer to 300. It's a staggeringly talented group, and it seems like they're going to get a lot of opportunity early on.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. That's why I love the new incentives that teams have to be more aggressive with their prospects. And yeah, I think I was looking at like my top 15 overall prospects in my long-term rankings. You're probably going to see, I think half of them are starting on opening day or shortly thereafter, and you'll probably see some of them, this mid-season as well. So yeah, it's going to be a really fun year, and I'm hoping that those new incentives make this more of the norm, and we have a lot of more exciting, rookie classes to come.
Cross just did a bold prediction show with me too, by the way, and we were talking where it was like my entire top 10 prospects, they're going to graduate by the end of the year. So it's like
Exactly.
the top 10 at the end of this year is going to look so crazy because I project every single one of my top 10 prospects to have graduated.
Yep.
So let's get to your bold prediction when it comes to prospects. Welsh, who do you have?
Yeah, I'm going bold. I'm going to go really bold on this one. And this is going to be a bet for you guys too. The bold play, this is actually something I talked about some time ago that I thought could happen. Jackson Merrill has made the roster. That's official. He's going to play center field for the team. So let's turn it into another direction. Jackson Merrill wins NL Rookie of the Year. He's going to sneak up on a lot of people. Ton of contact, doesn't strike out a bunch. He's starting to hit for more power. He's put up 2 homers in spring, which is kind of a big boost. He had 15 homers this past year. Batting average has always been high. I love low floor guys. He's going to be the center fielder, and he might sneak into 2020. If Yamamoto struggles, if Churios struggles, the Padres win games, Jackson Merrill might be sneaky. And guess what? Go on the Betting Pros app. You can check out, see all the odds everywhere. You can get plus 1,800. I'll tell you, actually, Bet River, you could get plus 3,000, but I saw plus 1,800, 18-1 Rookie of the Year odds for Jackson Merrill. So I sprinkled a little bit of it. So that's a nice, fun, bold prediction for you.
All right, we have to let Eric Cross go because the dogs clearly need to go out. We got to make sure that he's get them out there. Actually, it's our next guest, dogs?
That's right.
I don't know who's
there's no dogs. There's no dogs on the stream.
I hear dogs, so it must be in the green room. Maybe it's my dogs. Do I even have pets? I don't know. After this break, I'm going to figure out if I have any pets in my house. Check out Eric Cross's amazing work. Again, he's one of the best follows on the baseball planet at Eric Cross 04. Check out his top 100 prospect write-ups in the Black Book right now on Amazon as well. Great stuff, Cross, as always. Love having you on the show, man. Take a nap, man. I love you so much. You work too hard. We come back, bounce back candidates with Scott Pianowski. We're going to tell you the guys we're going to make good on 2024 investments. We return. Don't go anywhere. More Fantasy Pros Fantasy Fest right after this.
Bye, Eric.